San Francisco is really rich and diverse, and it's wonderful, and it's made of this multiplicity of different communities and people from all walks of life, different languages, and so on. For us to be the city university, supposedly, that's how we bill ourselves at San Francisco State, as the city university, that we go out to the people and to the communities to serve them, to understand them, to describe them, to work with them, to enhance their lives, and so on. It really means meeting them on their terms, not on our terms. There's a real strong, sentiment that I've seen over the years here at San Francisco State of many of our students wanting to give back.
I come from a really small area where there was maybe 4,000 people in the area that I grew up. It was not a diverse area. And so moving from that, living there for about 18 years and then moving to San Francisco, an area that is very culturally diverse. My name is Courtney Hendricks, and I graduated from San Francisco State University in 2011, and I've done community service learning. I was able to take what I was learning in the classroom and bring it to California Food and Justice Coalition. We worked a lot on different workshops around the National Farm Bill legislation, and we also put on different workshops getting people to gather around their kitchen tables and talk about their food and issues they see in their food or in their food system, and those are kitchen table talks. So with those kitchen table talks, I also actually brought those to San Francisco State and was able to do 2 kitchen table talks at San Francisco State.
Time when you took action to change something, or you wanted to take action but weren't able to, or there's something maybe that was in your way of doing that. So go ahead and start sharing your story.
After my community service learning experience, I stayed on with California Food and Justice Coalition. Eventually that came to an internship, so I interned with them for a couple months and was able to get hired on in July. So I work on our communications and our grant writing.
One is always an outsider in the sense that you may always be viewed as someone that is not necessarily from this setting, from this environment, from this organization, from this community, what have you. However, if you persist and you spend time there, you become, in many ways, brought in. You become, even in spite of your otherness, that otherness actually can be used in a way to enhance your set of relationships with the community.
My name is Andrea Rocha. I was a student at San Francisco State University in the Apparel Design and Merchandising program. I'm here in Goodwill, where we did a community service project last year. So we came to Goodwill and we took mannequins and bust forms, created outfits with the clothing that they already had here, and put our spin with our knowledge gained from our courses at State to kind of give it a fresh new look and just throw in some new ideas and just to improve some of the merchandising.
When the students are working at Goodwill, what they have to do is they have to develop a sketch. So we have a floor plan. We know how many mannequins. We know where they're supposed to be working. They develop a sketch and they work with Goodwill on a theme that's based on a color, or this is denim, or this is brights, or this is whites, whatever that's going to be. And then they go into the store and they pull the merchandise and they display it, and then they have to immediately take a before photo and an after photo, because they want so that they can see what it looked like before and compare it to what it looks like now. And then it is their responsibility for a 2-week period. They're in charge of this window. When students are working in the community, they're often feeling uncomfortable because they're in a different environment, either because they're taking public transportation to a part of the city that they never have taken before, or they've never been on public transportation before. So I'm always trying to have them go with someone else, particularly someone might know the route, might know the city, and they can go there together. But they have to be able to feel safe in a classroom environment to verbalize their anxieties and get support from other classmates that have felt that, and also give them suggestions of what they did.
Those first moments of entering a new arena, a new field, is the richest, when you're absolutely unfamiliar and you're trying to grasp and hold on to what's going on here. And because, as human beings, we're highly adaptable. We're constantly adapting to new settings. And so the unfamiliar quickly becomes familiar if you spend time there. And so to be able to understand that process of how we become cognizant and knowledgeable and understanding and familiar with new settings, you have to be able to describe that right from the very beginning.
Yeah, this is my first time volunteering, and so far I'm having a good time. I've been at State this is my 3rd year since my freshman year of college. I call this Bayview, others call it Hunters Point. Yeah, I skateboard over here sometimes, but I don't usually come out here to hang out or to go out with friends or anything like that. It's an area I'm not too familiar with.
This used to be Pier 98. Just like the pier over there, but it became a dumping site where people just dump things. There's concrete, metals, and things like tires that were dumped here. But later on, a wetland started forming. Like over here, you see all the wetlands over there? It started forming and people started noticing it, so they contacted the city and the port, and they saw this land as valuable. So they decided to clean it up.
I actually developed this class, Recreational Use of National Parks and Protected Areas, and I've been teaching this class for the last 5 years. Thinking about community, this is one of the greatest parks to use as a case example of how the value and the need to protect these areas. You're sitting next to industrial areas, but you still need green space to help maintain the ecosystem. And so when you come to this beautiful green space in between a power plant and a shipyard, and people wonder it's just a wasteland. And so really what you learn is that it's a wasteland gone green, and it helps to bring the community together. And so the students at SF State, what they learn is, how do you build community? What are some different opportunities in terms of bringing people together? And so Heron's Head Park is a community-based experience where people from the neighborhood help to come and create this incredible space. Part of what they learn and what I like that they get out of this is they realize that everybody needs clean air, clean water, right? There's common ground. And so what they learn when they're here today is they learn about what those common elements are when it comes to not just parks and use for recreation, but also for sustainability. And so the students start to realize about their privileges. They learn how they are privileged in their own communities, and they see how some people still today in the 21st century are living in such, these sorts of toxic environments that are both toxic to our health, our psychology, our mental state, and our spirit. And so what I do is I make sure that they think, you guys are going to be park managers someday. You're going to be those environmental leaders to help to mitigate some of the problems that are occurring in these kinds of parks. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do differently? And how are you going to engage that community? Because they live here. You may or may not live here, but they live here. So how are you going to tap into them and tap into their wisdom in order to help make this community a better place for not just them, but for the whole Bay Area?
culture of humility is always being in a stance of curiosity, interest, questioning, and never having the hubris of thinking you know it all. And this is the problem of thinking you can go from an outsider to an insider, because once you begin thinking you're an insider, this becomes that can become an obstacle and a barrier to really understanding and then being of service.
So my advice to students doing community service learning is to really go in with an open mind and going in respectfully and knowing that you need to build relationships to have a successful experience, and that takes work.
I know one of the struggles with my classmates was that they couldn't do everything that they had planned on doing. So to be flexible as possible, and to come into the community with an open mind and just do your best and not expect everything to go as planned, because there's going to be plan Bs and plan Cs that are going to come into your way.
So when they're in the community, it gives them this place for them to understand that their voice is important. Sometimes not as important as they thought it was, because there's another opinion in another way, but sometimes someone says, I never thought about it that way before.
And I think it's really important. I think it's really important that it's not about an either or. It's about a journey, it's about a process, it's about actual engagement, it's about actually forging real social relations and really coming into common cause to what community wants, and recognizing yourself as an instrument of the community as well, as an instrument of trying to make things happen that are of benefit to the people that you are serving. And really it's about transcending the whole notion of outsider-insider, as much as it is being involved, engaged, being in history, being in the context, being in the moment. You know, and I think that's what's really, really important, and we forget that. We forget that.